All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this webinar here on Wednesday evening. Happy to have you all here. And there's some people still rolling in, but I'm glad that those of you that are here early. And thank you for turning cameras on. How wonderful. Thank you. So let's get started. The intent of our conversation here is to help you think about homeownership, right? And how to make it happen for you. So I'm going to get rolling with some information here. Oh, oops, once I figure out how to advance my slide. Okay, there we go. Okay, so for those of you that don't know who I am yet, let me just introduce myself. I am Pinky Shaw. I have been a mortgage advisor for about 20 years now. And beyond just being a mortgage advisor, I've gone on and got some additional training, among which is a certified mortgage planning specialist, so that I can really help you in a different level. And I know I've got a couple of real estate agents on here, as well as some folks that are in the buying process. So all of you, welcome, welcome. And there's a little bit about me personally there too. So what are we going to talk about today? What we're going to talk about today is a couple of different things as it relates to homeownership, right? It's and getting into homeownership. We're going to talk about how to win in the home buying process, what's going on in the housing market and mortgage rates. I've been getting some questions about what about the election and what impact does that have? And then make sure you stick around till the end because I do have a gift for you. So be sure to stick around for that as well. So when we talk about the home buying process, right, I'm not going to talk about what kind of credit score you need or what types of programs there are, all those things that people do have questions on and they're important to understand. But what happens when we talk about that in a forum like this is that if we talk about someone with a 600 credit score and you're saying I have perfect, it's not going to apply to you. So instead, I've got tons of resources for you on our website, and we've got a home buying guide for you, and we can talk about that in one-on-one consultations. Today, what we're going to talk about is those big picture items about like how to win in the home buying process when we talk about process, okay? So let's get started. Here's a graph or a little chart, roadmap, if you will, of what happens in the home buying process, right? The best thing to really start with is a discovery call. We like to also call it a dreams and goals call. And by the way, feel free to put into the chat if you have any questions. I'll take a peek at it every now and then. So put in if you have any questions in there. But what you start with is a dreams and goals call. And then once you have had that call, you move on and you get pre-approved. And that's with the intent of helping you understand what exactly you get qualified for. That process takes a few days to do it thoroughly and to do it right. You will hear about, I got my pre-approval in 5 minutes online and that, but that's not really going to help you just to get a pre-approval. What's really going to help you is to have a financial conversation and a consultation about what works for you and your scenario. And that's what that consultation will do for you. Once you've done that, then you want to go on and start looking at houses with your real estate agent. And once you find a home you like, you're going to try and beat out other offers if there are other offers to beat, which is common these days because we're still in a seller's market in most parts of the country. And then once you have an offer accepted, you sign the contract, and then we have a contract meeting, which is to go through the specifics of the house that you bought. Next, if you are using an attorney, you would go into what's called attorney review, and it goes into mortgage underwriting, and then everything gets finally approved, and then you go and you get the keys to your house. And then the real fun begins because now you get to start your journey into being a successful homeownership and using real estate to grow your wealth. So that's an overview of the roadmap. The first step, which now that I think about, I should have put on there, is to actually select your right team, okay? This is a thing that folks, I've noticed people overlook, and I just read an article recently about how many homeowners are getting frustrated with the process of homeownership, and then they were leaving and ending up not being able to get what they wanted, which was a home, and continue to rent or live with family or whatever it was they were trying to get out of. And, my realization as I was reading some of that was that it's because they didn't have people that were on their team helping them through it, that were the right people focused on their goals. So super important to have the right team supporting you. And some advice on how to pick your right team is, right, you want to understand what skills and traits are important to you. There are all sorts of different people that do what I do, that do real estate, and you'll see a list at the bottom of some different people that you'll need. And so you have to understand what is important to you in the person that you're working with. And I always encourage people read their individual reviews, not just their company reviews, because that will help you then understand, what they're known for and if that meets what's important to you. And then I think it's so important to have partners who are going to be proactively adding value for you, not just through a transaction, but well after the transaction is over, because that's when the real hard stuff begins. As hard as you think it is to buy a home, it doesn't necessarily get easier afterwards, and there's no playbook on it. So it helps you to have a team that's going to be continually supporting you and helping you manage your asset and your new debt. And then strong referrals are always great. If you've got the right team on your side, if you start with the lender or a realtor, they can introduce you to everybody else that you need. And that, you don't have to worry about trying to find everybody on this list, okay? So that's an important first step. Once you've done that, then you've gone through your initial dreams and goals call or that discovery call. And when you're at your pre-purchase consultation, now it's time for you to focus on making data-driven decisions. Just because you know that you can buy a house doesn't necessarily tell you what is right for you, right? This is an example of someone who's qualified to buy a $600,000 home and their payment was going to be over $5,000. But they really said they were comfortable with a target payment of about $4,500, willing to stretch to maybe $4,700 for the right home. So if they were just given a pre-approval that said, go out and look at 600, and they did not know that it would equate to a payment of 5,000, think about how disappointed they would be if they started shopping at this amount without understanding the rest of these details and then had to go back and look at homes that were 520. It would have been a colossal waste of their time and everyone's time, along with the major disappointment that comes with it. So having this consultation and understanding your numbers so that you can make, I like to call it, data-driven decisions. Emotions are important, but sometimes they can cloud our decision-making when we're in this process. So really understanding the numbers can help you make a good data-driven decision here. And then once you've figured out where you want to start looking, so let's say this buyer is looking at homes in the 520 range. Well, then they see a house they like. And so what are we going to do next? Well, then you do an offer consultation, right? Ideally, your real estate agent, you and your lender are collaborating together, the agent giving data on what does it look like and what price point should they be considering based on their conversations with the listing agent, their study of the market data. And then let's say in this case, the house was listed at $495 and your agent's telling you maybe that $525 is a good price point. Well, if that's a good price point, what does that mean for you? Most people think it means they have to bring $30,000 extra. But really, for you, what it means is that your monthly payment's going up about $3,000 and your cash to close is only going up under $2,000, right? So then the real question is not, do I want to pay $525 for the house, but do I want to pay $4,500 and $42,000? And then go back to our target payment, right? Our target payment was about $4,500 for the same buyer. So in this case, this can work. So understanding all this and having someone help you understand the numbers behind it and help you take the emotions out of it will be immensely helpful to you as you're going through this process of trying to make the right decisions so you don't end up having any regrets afterwards. The next thing is, now that you're putting in an offer, how do you get your offer accepted? So you need to be ready. And, the market may change, but for now, in most parts of New Jersey, or at least the central part, we are still, mostly a seller's market with multiple offers and multiple bids. So for that, you want to stay ahead of your competition so that you can look stronger than the others look, so that you have the best chance of getting an offer accepted. And what does that look like? Well, again, if I think back to that article that I read recently, and on average, on every home, there's about 6 offers on every home, okay? And so that means 1 in 6 offers are getting accepted, or 16%. But you need to be working with a team that's going to increase your offer acceptance rate, right? Ours is upwards of 50% generally. So what do you do in that case, right? And how do you do that? You can get a fully underwritten approval. So it's not just a pre-qualification that someone did for you online in 5 minutes. It's not even a pre-approval where they review the documents, but it's the underwriters actually looked at your paperwork. So that gives you a tremendous, tremendous leg up when you're putting in offers. Next is you want, depending on what it looks like, you could be arming yourself with tools that help you look as good as cash, even when you have a mortgage or even if you have a house to sell. So working with someone that's going to give you tools like that will really help you out. And then also be aware of different options in the off chance that the house isn't a hot property. Maybe it's been sitting on the market for a while. You want to make sure that you're considering different strategies in that case that, will actually end up saving you a lot more money and help look good to the seller. The thing is, you want to make an offer that is structured well so that the seller feels like it's compelling to them, but you're still in the best position without necessarily being the highest price. So, and having the entire team, selling your offer to the listing agent is also hugely valuable, because now you don't have one advocate for you in the buyer's agent, but you also have your lender advocating for you. And now you've got a team that's showing up strong to help you be the winning offer. And we find that that's one of the reasons why we have a lot of success. Pause for a quick second. Any questions at this point? Let me just take a quick peek at the chat. Okay. Feel free to either raise your hand. Oh, Gladys, I'm glad you made it in. Any questions? Okay. So now we're going to move over into, should I buy real estate, right? That all sounds great. I know how to win, but market's kind of dicey. I think that maybe it's going to crash. The interest rates are high. They're going to come down. Those are all different things that I hear. And in case you didn't notice, I happen to be a pharmacist by education. So that means I like data, right? And so that's what we like to talk about. And I think that's a great way to help you make decisions. So first off, if you are renting, for those of my friends here that are currently renting, just up on the screen are a few things for you to know about how, why homeownership might be helpful for you at a high level, at a global level, okay? Beyond that, I saw this chart, which I think is really telling and which, quite frankly, is part of my motivation for working so hard to educate people. Because look at the difference between homeownership and renters. Homeowners have over almost 400,000 more in net worth compared to people that don't own a home. And that gap has just been increasing over the years. So you really could change the trajectory of your life if you are a homeowner. And here's another difference, just to illustrate it in a different way. If you were to rent a home and for 5 years, okay, at a $3,000 a month rent, you would be spending $223,000 basically in the 5-year period with basic rent increases. If you're owning a home for that same and you're paying $4,700 a month, you have equity of $33,000. In the rent case, we have equity of 0. And again, we come and look at the net worth. And this is what I was just showing the other one, right? This is only 5 years. Look at the difference in net worth that one has when they own versus rent. So again, if that again is not enough for you, take a look at this chart. This shows the home appreciation rates from the 1940s through last year. And so what you'll see is 74 out of these years were positive appreciation, okay? Positive appreciation for 74 years out of 82. It's a pretty good track record. So if we're concerned about home prices decreasing, it's always a possibility, absolutely. But history suggests that it will increase. And, I was just sharing this with somebody today. I bought my house here in 2005. So if you're looking at the chart, you'll see that. And by the way, I should point out December 31st, 2005, at the peak of that double-digit appreciation for 4 years in a row. And then you'll see that it continued to decline for 5 years soon after. I don't regret my decision. I'm still in the house. We have built a beautiful life in this home. And our home has, if you look at the rest of these numbers, it's up 80% since I bought it. So there's nothing wrong with taking a chance, especially if you are planning to stay in that home for any period of time, because the odds are in your favor. That was an anomaly. This was the only time that happened, by the way, right? So that was an anomaly, and we all know what happened with the 2008 crash. So, and there's lots of data that suggests that that's nowhere near where we are right now. If you have any questions on that, I have different slides that I didn't put in here that I can share with you about that. Now, you're saying that's all great, but that's a rearview mirror, right? What about looking forward? What's going to happen? And this is a study that was just put out last month. Fannie Mae, and Pulse Economics. And they did this study to say, or a survey to say of economists and saying, what's going to happen moving forward? So in 24, they're expecting an average of about 5% home appreciation. The most pessimistic of the bunch said only 4%, and the most optimistic said 6%. So on average, about 24,000 gain in home on a $500,000 home, right? And so the next thing is, what about 5 years, right? That's fine, that's short term. What if it declines after that? Well, in the next 5 years, again, the average is 20% in a 5-year period. And the most pessimistic, again, said 8%, which would be equivalent of 40,000 increase on a $500,000 home in a 5-year period. So the question is, would you like $24,000 of net worth in a year? And what about 100,000, right, in 5 years? So if you're thinking about buying a home, let's not ignore the cost of actually waiting to buy a home, because you could miss out on significant capital appreciation when home prices rise. And of course, on top of that, you're paying more for the house if these numbers or any part of it becomes true, even the most pessimistic numbers of it, right? And that was national data. So what about locally, right? So locally, this is data from Middlesex County, and we can pull this for wherever you live, by the way. So I just use this as an example because this is the county that I live in. So Middlesex County, over a 5-year period, is expecting appreciation of about 20%, that average number that we just saw there. And this is specific to Middlesex County. And here you can see the appreciation rates historically as well. So it's in line if you were to do it. This is annual, and this is over the 5-year period, by the way. And this is an average of 4%. So it's on the most conservative of the numbers that are here. And so if we do the math and say, what happens if I wait, right? If we take the 12-month appreciation from here to here, and we divide it by 12 months, we get that the appreciation per month is 23,000. And if we divide, or I'm sorry, is 1,900, right? And so that's how much is lost in appreciation per month if you decide to wait instead of proceed now. Questions? Okay. What about mortgage rates? That's another fun topic, right? What's going on there? And what do we do about mortgages, and what our rates are going to come down? And forecasts are saying they're going to come down, by the way. Let's start at a high level, and let me share with you how mortgage rates are determined, okay? Most people don't actually know this. So if you see a rate of 6.5, right? It didn't start, and it wasn't just born at 6.5, and I didn't just make up the 6.5, or my friends that are lenders. None of us got to make up that number. It came from way back over here, okay? So there's something called mortgage-backed securities. It's a bond. And so the price of that bond starts the whole flow down to here, okay? So if the price of that bond is 5.5, then Fannie Mae, that's what this stands for, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they own 90% of mortgages in the US. They take a little piece of it. Mortgage companies take a little piece of it. And then you get this rate, okay? So it can't really change that much from here to here, and lenders don't have the ability to go change it drastically because the big portion is really coming from here and here. So that's where the numbers come from. And so what does that look like? This is, and what impacts mortgage bonds, right? So mortgage bonds are driven by 3 main things, okay? They're driven by the jobs reports, GDP or gross domestic product, and inflation. A lot of people have been asking me about that recent Fed rate cut. So that, and if you've watched the news, you'll know that the rates actually decreased before the Fed actually cut the rates on September 18th. And since then, the rates have actually either stayed stagnant or gone up a little bit because it was built into the markets, and because the Fed does not control mortgage rates. They control the overnight lending rate from bank to bank, which is called the Fed funds rate. So if you don't remember any of this, remember this down here. Good news in the economy means that mortgage rates go up. Bad news in the economy means mortgage rates go down. We have a lot of things going on right now, domestically and internationally, that are going to affect the economy. And that's what we're going to watch for. And that's what's going to help determine if the rates continue to go down or if they go up, right? So this is a chart just to give you some idea of what the mortgage-backed securities look like, okay? Remember I said it's a bond. This is the initial bond that we were talking about. And as this goes up, that means rates are coming down. As this goes down, that means rates are coming up. And if you look at this chart, right, the peak around here in December, that's the lowest that the rate was before. Well, we just hit it again in August recently, right? And have surpassed it. So if you hear people saying the best rates in a year, that's because this is the chart of a year and we finally are at the best rates in a year. So that helps you understand what drives the mortgage rates. So what happens next? Rates are either going to go up, they're going to go down, or they're going to stay the same. Most forecasts are picking the middle one, that the rates are going to go down. So what happens if rates go down? Let's see. Okay, if you buy that $500,000 home again today at the 6.5 rate, and by the way, this is, I made these slides a while ago. This is not today's rate, and it depends on a lot of things, but that's the example we're using. And let's say a year later, the rates are down to 6%. Okay. But if we use the most pessimistic of those forecasts, the home appreciation has gone up to 520. So what happened to your overall monthly payment? Well, it stayed about the same. Just because rates came down, it didn't end up making that house more affordable for you. And what about 5 years later? Again, we use that pessimistic assumption of home prices, and we use an aggressive assumption on mortgage rate decline. Well, now in 5 years, you could potentially buy this same house for about $160 less. In the most pessimistic case for home price appreciation, if we go and we look at the more aggressive, or actually this is the average, and the interest rates continue to drop aggressively, well, you're paying more for that same house now. So we could wait for this and see how it pans out if this number comes to fruition and this number comes to fruition. When we do that, though, we are obviously losing out on all the appreciation from here to here, right? And we're hoping that both of the markets move in the direction that we wanted to, such that your payment can truly be lower in that time period. So unfortunately, there's a lot that's out of your control if we try to time the market. If the payments worked today, my advice is do it. If the payments don't work, then let's create a plan to help you figure out how to get numbers that work for you. But putting our faith in something that we have zero control over is just not a rule that I like to live by, generally speaking. I say control your controllables and don't worry about things you can't control. We can't control mortgage rates. We can't control the economy, right? Or the home prices. But what we can control is what we're comfortable spending and what we're ready to pay every month. So focus on what you can control. So what about the election, right? I had fun doing research on this one, to be honest with you. I went back and looked up data to see what's been going on with election and home prices. I had assumptions as well, but again, I like to use data to help validate everything. So this chart here is showing you election years are the blue years, okay? And the orange or the green are the years following the election. And you will see that the green means that prices of homes went up, and all but the 1 year, again, this is that 2008 crash year, home prices went up. So that was the only time that we actually saw that home prices went down post-election. So if you're worried about your home losing value because of an election, this data suggests that maybe it's an unfounded fear. And what about mortgage rates and what happens with mortgage rates, right? So this data from Freddie Mac shows mortgage rates decreased from July to November in 8 of the past elections, okay? So, but this is, again, leading up to the election, okay? And most forecasts expects that mortgage rates are going to ease slightly throughout the remainder of this year, and they have historically as well. So if we're right, and this year will follow that trend of declining rates leading up to the most previous elections, and if you're looking to buy a house in the coming months, this could be good news because lower rates could mean a lower monthly payment. But again, just remember, what does lower rates mean to the amount of competition that you're going to see? Do you think you're the only one that's waiting for lower rates? Chances are no, and data suggests no. So while there may be a slight improvement to rates following the election, the effects are usually pretty small and temporary, and you would still be faced with potentially increased competition and elevated home prices. So bottom line is, it's of course super natural to feel uncertain during an election year, but history just shows that the housing market continues to remain strong and resilient through it. So waiting for it may or may not turn out to cost you more than save you. Feel free to ask questions, you guys. Happy to address them. So next. So now you're saying, I'm fired up. I want to buy a house. What do I do? Right? So when we think about that, we come back to the roadmap, right? Remember, you are probably here on this discovery call phase. I see someone in here that's a little bit further, ready for this next step, but most of us on here, if you're a client, are probably here. And if you're an agent, then this is where you want to probably start your clients off, right? Is with that initial discovery call to then figure out and then go on through the rest of the map. So this is how you start, and this is what you would do next if you think that you want to buy a home. And I'll put up here, this is a link to my my calendar. So if you wanted to go ahead and take a picture of this, you can schedule a consultation, and happy to help you go through and figure out the next steps there. Oh, and I promised you a gift. I almost forgot about it. It's a good thing I put the slide in. So a couple of gifts for you. First is we have a free financial app for you, okay? This app is intended to help you prepare for home ownership. So you should have my contact info. I've sent you a reminder about this. So just respond to that and let us know if you would like to get that, or just shoot me a message and say, I'd like to collect on my gift, and we'll get that over to you. But additionally, I also wanted to say, if you are looking to buy a home in 2024 or 2025, we will cover the cost of your appraisal when you buy that next home, okay? So I'll send you some details afterwards. You'll have that. And if you're a real estate agent here, you can feel free to give that to one of your clients. We're happy to help them in that way with these gifts as well. So I'm going to put that link again. Do you guys have any questions for me? All right. Well, I'm going to stop sharing. I hope this has been extremely helpful for you. And feel free to message me if you don't want to, ask questions in this public forum. You have my contact information, schedule a consultation, or give me a call, text, email, on Instagram, wherever you found me, and be happy to answer any follow-up questions for you. Thank you for joining.
Hey, Pinky, this is Anant. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, joined a bit late. Just a quick question. Do you do refinances, and is that the 500 appraisal? Will that apply for refinances as well?
This was intended for purchases, but we can talk about that. Yeah, we do definitely do refinances. And I don't know if you were able to scan that code, but let's schedule that consultation. We can talk through it for you. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sure. I have your email. I will probably shoot you an email.
That'd be perfect. Yeah, that would be perfect. Let's do that. And we'll get some time on the calendar in the next day or two.
Okay. And are you licensed in like Pennsylvania as well, or just New Jersey?
48 states, Pennsylvania being one of them. Yes.
Okay. So only 2 you're not licensed.
I know, right?
Yeah. I joined a bit late, so I didn't catch your introduction. So.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I put that in my introduction. I don't know that I did, so you reminded me. Maybe I'll add it next time. Yeah. But yeah, look forward to talking to you, Anand. Thank you for joining us here.
Sure, Pinky. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions? Oh, all right. Well, have a good evening, everybody. Thank you again for joining in. Bye-bye.